I wanted to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Talent Insights. Talent Insights are Australia's leading data specialist recruitment business. They are experts in recruitment strategy and delivery for analytics and data teams. They are the go-to recruitment business for all your data roles in Australia, and they can help both with permanent hires and short-term project-focused data resources. I've used Talent Insights in the past, and I've always found them fantastic to work with. Visit them at talentinsights.com.au. We had a comment from Fiona, which is an awesome comment. She says, Abhi, you're making me rethink my next career step. I already work as a business change manager. I was planning to move away from it into analytics. However, now I'm thinking I should bring the analytics into change management. That's
a great idea. Analytics is change management. Without change management, analytics isn't anything. It's just programs.
Yeah, exactly. Because in order to realize the value, you need to focus on that last mile. Focus on the adoption. Focus on changing people's behavior. Because for analytics to have the impact, the workflow, the business processes, what people do in a day-to-day, it needs to look different as a result of the analytical work for it to be put into production and into use. I agree. The change management is a key skill needed in the analytics space. So Fiona, you're on the right space. You're right on the money there in the intersection between analytics and change management. That is excellent. Awesome. She says awesome. Excited. Yeah, I'm excited for you actually.
That's exciting.
And we had a related question, which says, does your COE aim to build analytics competency across the whole organization, e.g., build people's ability to consume dashboards and use data in their decisions? Does that include managers and staff in operations? So as we're discussing the adoption part of the analytics work, how is that enabled throughout the organization from or by the COE?
That's a great question. So I think part of my role is to really drive scale for analytics and scaling analytics value across the 10 businesses that we have within TE, right? And I think as we think about it, a big component of that is really driving understanding and building capability within the center, first of all, so that, I always say that the airline code, put your own mask on first before you put somebody else's on, right? I think. Yeah. So when we talked about building analytics capability, I said, and there was a lot of focus on how are you building capability within the business. So my first thinking was, as we laid out the strategy in, first 90 days, it was all about building capability, in the central COE, in being able to have experts, that are experts in data science, cloud, DevOps, MLOps, data visualization, user experience, storytelling, data engineering, of course, right? And then platform, building the trusted data and platform, and they're building a governance team. So a lot of these competencies kind of got created. And then I think as we get into now the second year and the third year, a lot of my focus has been on how do I build these small COE kind of a team within each of the businesses and segments, which are basically each segment with multiple businesses. So that, now they can actually become a self-sustaining analytics capability. So what I'm doing is, the challenge is you got to do that whole hub and spoke model and building capability in a way so that you are tied around the hip in terms of having, reducing the duplication of work in terms of everybody building their own platform or competing investments. But at the same time, if you can figure out, how can we build a platform? So as we're building an analytics platform, the right data lake, and then building capability in the business that they can consume it and build upon that. And that's really, building upon each other is really the key, and building upon each other's capability from one business to another. So as you build, an advanced analytics capability for business A, how quickly are you able to deploy that to business 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10? And that's really the maturity piece that I like to measure is Are we doing systemic transformation of the company, business by business, and are we able to scale quickly? So part of my role is really building analytics in these different businesses and spokes, and looking at hiring them. So the way the route we are taking in TE is really creating these I call them seed teams. So I'm seeding a team, a small team. So it's funded by the business. It's part of solid line reporting into my team. And I'm going to hire the right people, make sure that, the people who are hiring analytics talent know what an analytics talent is and are, have analytics competency, right? So that's kind of building that talent pipeline, bringing people on board, teaching them about TE, the TE data sets, giving them access to the right platform and enabling them, and then making them work in the right operating model. So a lot of the work in the last 15 months we have done is around redefining the operating model. We are not working on funded projects. We are working on value projects, right? As I talked about. So if there is value, we'll work on it. If it's, previously it was, it's funded, you should just work it. I'm funding this. And I'm like, no, funding doesn't do anything. What is the value we are creating for the company? How is it aligned with the strategy? Do I have an executive sponsor? Those are the questions we ask, right? So basically building that whole operating model, and embedding that and doing a 12-week project delivery. So previously projects were 6 months long. How do we deliver something quickly in 6 to 12 weeks? So training, basically building the C team. And then once they are mature in like 12 to 18 months, how do we move them out within the business and embed them within the business is kind of the plan, right? So we have hired like the first 2 C teams, they're starting to come on board and starting to grow, and then we're going to move them out.
Oh man, that is an excellent innovation on how to prove business value quickly, have the focus. It is awesome. A comment from Fiona says a great response and a very clear strategy and plan. I agree. It's excellent. As we were talking, we had a question come in from Matt that says, do you think analytics works best when priorities come from a strategic view of analytics from top management, or when driven from lower down in the structure where people might be closer to the operational needs?
I think that's a great question. I mean, that's actually a phenomenal question. And I think analytics needs can come from, the top management or middle management or bottom management. I think they come from all across. The real question is, how do you qualify them? How do you know that that's a good problem to solve? And I think it also depends upon the charter of the team, right? If you're part of a strategy team where you're looking like 3 years out and you're not really so focused on driving, unlocking business efficiencies in supply chain and finance or driving automation, that's your charter. You're probably not working on 3-year-out projects. But if you're part of a strategy team, you're working on projects that are like, when am I going to come out? And after COVID, post-COVID, what does that work look like? What the market is going to be. Are we going to be sustaining that same demand? Are we going to go down in demand? When is that turn coming? Those are more challenging questions, right? And I think, or if you're a team which have to balance both, that kind of the other thing. But ultimately, you got to make sure that whatever problem you're getting is tied to a strategy. It's tied to, and you have an executive sponsor. I'll go back to that. Every problem, if you don't have an executive sponsor, no matter if it's a long-term problem or a short-term problem with high value, you have to have an executive sponsor, because you can answer the 3-year-out question or the 3-month-out question. If you don't have anybody who is, desperate for that answer and ready to go implement it and drive that change, it's not going to matter, right? So I think, I think to me, the simpler answer is ideas can come across. It really is making sure that, you have the support from the business to drive the change, and you have a very clear idea on what the value prop around it is. And then the third thing I look at is feasibility. I think feasibility is all about how easy or complex the problem might be. And then sometimes we take on high complex, high value problems to a certain extent. And then the other set of problems are, high value, low complexity, so that we can balance our ROI portfolio. Our goals are, one of my main goals is driving analytics value. That's kind of what I get measured on. And making sure that we are meeting the goal, and then we are working on a diverse portfolio. I'm hoping that answered the question.
Definitely, man. That is excellent. And we had a related question from Rajiv around when we're talking about the enablement of the business. He's asking about self-service. So what are your views on self-service? Do you think it's taken off? Is it a good area to focus on, or is it still yet to come in terms of an organizational reality?
I think it depends upon company to company. I mean, TE has been, I would say, far ahead of self-service than other companies that I've seen in the past. We have in democratized data, given data access to a lot of people across all kinds of functions and levels and global footprint, I would say, which is great. I think the way that the other dimension on self-service you can think of, I think we should do it. Absolutely, that's essential. But we got to figure out, a couple changes that are coming in that space are really the technological changes, right? Previously, people used to download the data and put it in their own local server and create their own copy, and now you're multiplying data, and that becomes a challenge. The second is really, how do you, now that we have a new cloud platform, we are building people and their own sandboxes where we can give them access to data. They can actually, instead of downloading it, just get access to it within their own sandbox, build whatever they need to build and automate, and then productionize. So that's the second thing, because ultimately you want to democratize data, but you want to do it in a way that you don't lose the lineage of the data and the single source of truth, because that's where the problem becomes complex. It's not about self-service. People worry about self-service, but it's really about how can you, when somebody takes the data, merges with something else, applies their own hierarchy and publishes a report or a model, and it doesn't match with something else, then people lose trust. So how can you basically drive the consistency, the thread around lineage across all the way to the edge?
Oh man, that is, I love that. Lineage, understanding transformation and trust is critical. That's great. I just put a comment in the chat saying that we have a few minutes left. So for the people attending, let us know what you thought of the session. Any feedback, anything that you particularly enjoyed, put it in the chat. We have a question from Conrad, and then we'll go through the poll questions, although the answers to the poll. So from Conrad, says, Abhi, are there any frameworks you use to quantify analytics value to the organization? Maybe if you can talk about how you project business value to business stakeholders.
That's a great question. So I think one of the things, since value is the primary goal that we established within TE, we don't want to say at the end of the year, analytics value was X million, right? We talk about how is it made out of, right? What is it made of? Where did it come from? Who did what? With what data set? What insight to unlock what value, right? So we've created basically, so the important piece around it is basically when you talk about value, you really want to talk about transparency around value and clarity around value and measurement around value, right? Because if you don't do that, then it becomes a wishy-washy number that people kind of, listen to you, but don't trust it. So one of the things we did in the first year is really, we launched an enterprise analytics or data value dashboard, which talked about, each business unit, each business function, and then it talks about the overall progress versus goal for the year. And then when you click on each business unit or segment, it talks about who is the business unit member, what is the analytics project, and it has a small success story, which talks about what did they do differently, what data or insight did they use, what action did they do, and then how much value has come and gotten realized to date. So that you can look at, what is your X dollars, Y million dollars that you are publishing are made out of. And then how, which applications are deriving it? Which functions are we getting? Are we getting more value in supply chain? Are we getting more value through pricing? Are we getting more value through engineering applications? You want to understand that. And then the other important thing that it's driving is basically when entire company can go there, one business unit is going in and looking at another segment and saying, oh, they're using analytics and they're able to now improve their ship to request, or they're able to reduce their inventory. Why am I not doing that? And then I get a question, is that solution ready, Abhi? Can I go adopt it? And then we are able to, see how can we scale it. So it's really not just value communication, but also awareness around what is analytics, what is the art of the possible within TE with analytics, right? And then what are you missing out on? To create kind of a FOMO, right? In other businesses.
Exactly.
For the lack of a better word.
Oh man, I love that. That is excellent. We had a comment from Fiona about this session. She says, fantastic. It's been fantastic. So many insights from Abhi. It's been immensely valuable for me, particularly the discussion on change management and business value in analytics, which is excellent. Thank you very much. I'll close the poll now. We had 90% of people answered the poll. I'll share the results now, so everyone should be able to see them on their screen. And we'll go through and make a few comments on the answers, see where everyone's at. So the first question, does your organization have a data science or analytics center of excellence? 71% of people said no. 29% of people said yes. Oh, that's interesting. Abhi, any thoughts on those numbers?
That's actually exciting because I think, I think there is, every company is different, as I said earlier, but, I don't know how this is working across companies. And it's always interesting to see 30% with no COEs 30% with COEs, 70% with no COEs. And I think, I'm hoping, that people are still thinking about like building without a COE also like more cohesive analytics teams so that we can drive more of a community. Because one of the things that I always have observed and been concerned about is if you don't, people feel the sense of belonging in a career path, the talent piece is a very challenging piece. We all know that within analytics.
100% agree. Excellent. Thank you. Question 2 was, how is your organization's cloud migration going? And we had options were not started, early days, making progress, almost there, and done. Most popular answer was making progress with 47% of people. And we had 18% of people not started, and then another 18 in early days, and then 6% in done. Which is excellent.
This is phenomenal to see, Philippe, because I think, it just tells me how far we have come in cloud, right? I mean, like 3 years ago, this question would probably, or 4 years ago, the other way, right? 20% would be say we are, starting.
Yes.
Right now, 80% people have actually either started or are done or making really robust progress, which is so promising to see, because I think that's really the right place to be, because you want to get the scalability, you want to get, the elastic compute and maturity that you get, with a cloud platform. So that's definitely very insightful to me. That's definitely new insight to me, which is good.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree. It is very exciting to see the move, and especially with most people, working on it, is making good progress. That's excellent. Number 3 was, does your organization centrally manage the delivery of analytics across the enterprise? 53%, it was close. So 53% of people said no, and 47% of people said yes. Very interesting. What do you think, Abhi?
I think it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to see that it's kind of divided half and half. And analytics, half of the people are trying to do it from the enterprise, from a central function versus distributed function. And I think both answers are correct. And I think just making sure you are in, yes or no box, just making sure that you are closer to the business, as I said earlier, is the key there.
Yeah, agreed. Number 4 was, does your organization measure the success of the analytics function? 71% of people said no, and 29% of people said yes. We had a good discussion around how to measure it and what to focus on, but which is great. So hopefully that's helpful for the people that are sitting, in either camp, in the yes or no camp, because there's always new ways or different ways to measure value. But any thoughts from your side, Abhi, on having majority of people not measuring the success of the analytics function at the moment?
I think I would think that measurement is coming. I think more and more people 3 years ago, if you would have said, there is probably 5 or 10% measuring analytics and they're investing in building capability. So it's really, to me, analytics measurement is also kind of a sense of maturity of analytics function, if you will, right? And I think as teams, spend 3-4 years, probably first 3-4 years, they're spending investments to build the capability, and then they want to start to see some kind of an ROI or an outcome. So this is an interesting question. I think that for the folks who are in the non-measurement, I think it's good to understand what the outcomes are expected, and how can we put, if not financial measures, some other kind of measures, like as I talked about adoption, as I talked about, NPS scores, so that we know, because the point about success of analytics and measuring the success of analytics, you drive a lot of engagement. That's kind of the other interesting thing that I saw from the team is, as I talked to data scientists and I said, I'm not measuring your annual performance based on model accuracy. I'm actually measuring it based on the ROI or the realized value that your project created. And people are scratching their head, were like, why? I'm a data scientist. I built the model and I predicted it just right. And I'm like, well, yeah, you got to understand what problem are you solving and why are you solving it? And you have equal hand as well as the business to make that outcome successful for the company. And I think that drove a lot of engagement, because, I heard from the team that they feel a much better sense of purpose and belonging in the team, and the job satisfaction, retention, all of that really went high, because people know why are they here. And they can see, they can put their finger on and point to, I did this, and this is what's creating, dollars and cents for TE.
Great, man. That is excellent. Yeah, I think this discussion and this episode would encourage a lot of people to move more into measuring the value of the analytics team, and we've definitely covered quite a few ways to do that, and to do that well. So I'm excited about what people can do after this. So that's really good. Last question, Paul, is: does your organization develop their analytical talent? And I was actually hoping for better, for a nicer reflection here. But 53% of people said no, that their organization does not develop their analytical talent, and 47% of people said yes. I would, What are your thoughts, Abhi?
That's interesting, because I think there is kind of it's a challenge, right? I mean, I think it's a seed, grow, harvest kind of a thinking. I always think about it like you need some talent to build other talent, right? If you have not a lot of mature talent, then it's hard to build others or know how to help build others, right? So I think some of the best teammates that I've had in my career are the people who make their other teammates better, right?
Yes.
Who make the whole team better, right? And I think that's the kind of people early on you want to hire. And then the second thing I always look at, it's so hard to find talent, and everybody, including me, complain about it every day, every hour. Yeah. Right? But the point is, if you're not focused on who are the people who are enthusiasts in your own large company, who are excited about this topic, who are taking their own individual classes and learning, and who want to be a data scientist or a data engineer or drive the analytics change management like that Fiona was talking about, you got to find those people. Because if you find smart people who are passionate and who already know your business and your company, learning about analytics is something that will come along the way. And basically a good mechanism to find those people and attract them into, your team, the retention mechanism is a lot higher, right? So I think that's important. One of the things that, I'm very proud of in TE that we did, when I joined, we had 0 people who knew cloud.
Wow.
We had nobody. We hadn't started our cloud journey. We were in the top last 20% you talked about 2 years ago. And then as we start to build it, we are looking for cloud talent, and it's so difficult to find, architects and solution architects. So one of the big things, and every data engineer needed to learn how to really do pipelining on cloud productionization. So, my team encouraged, training, enabled training, recognize people monetarily for taking classes, not just enable free education, but also recognize people in, who got and took time out even during COVID to spend and then get those AWS certifications, for example. And I think within a year, what we could see is 28 certifications, 28 people certified in AWS who are now speaking the language, holding other AWS and other folks accountable, are leveraging and using the platform. And in the last 12 months, we have basically opened a lot of that to a lot of the business folks. So now we have a community going where the business people are now getting comfortable to using these new technologies, because it's not just about investment. It's about making it easy to use, making people comfortable moving away from these SQL-based on-prem systems and Excel to using the new generation of tools to drive that scale.
And that is excellent. Thank you so much. I can't believe we're out of time. I just looked at the time. It's like it's been an hour. Mate, this has been excellent. You can see by the questions and the comments, people have found so much value in your perspectives, in your journey. I really can't thank you enough for sharing all your insights with us today. Really, really great. Point from Conrad says, wonderful interaction with all. Good to understand a mature analytics setup at TE. Great clarity of thought. I agree with that. Claire says, thanks very much. And Parikshit says, thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Abhi, for your time. Thanks everyone who joined live. Thank you to everyone who was active on the chat and who asked questions. Rajiv, Fiona, Parikshit, Conrad, thank you so much, guys, for getting amongst it. Olga as well, thank you. Thanks everyone who made the time to join live. This is going out on YouTube, on the podcast. Definitely check it out there. Share with people. It's been a fantastic discussion. Abhi, thank you so much again. That was absolutely excellent, wonderful. Enjoyed it end to end. And for everyone listening, come back next week, Friday morning. We have a session with Steve Norrie, the king of LinkedIn in the analytics space. He has over 350,000 followers, has been doing amazing, amazing work. Come, we'll chat with him. And Abhi, that was awesome. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Philippe. And it was a great conversation. Love the questions, love the engagement from the audience as well. And thank you so much for having me.
Too kind. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. For everyone in Australia, have a great day and see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope that you got a lot out of this discussion. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel so more people can find out about the challenges that leaders have in the analytics and AI space. And that's what we're trying to share in Data Futurology. So please like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Thank you so much.